Welcome everyone. In this short video, I'm going to demonstrate a risk assessment tool used in MEDINA. The tool is called SATRA, which means Self-Assessment Tool for Risk Analysis, and it has been developed by a team from the Institute of Informatics and Telematics of Siena, Italy. I'm going to start with a couple of slides to describe the main goals and the capabilities of our tool, and then demonstrate the tool itself. This is the first basic version of this tool, which will be implemented and extended in the second half of the project. Therefore, it focuses on implementation of its main goal, risk-based non-conformity assessment with EUCS, European Cybersecurity Certification Scheme for cloud services, leaving coverage of other schemes and its collaboration for the future. I would like to remind that the main goal of MEDINA is to provision frameworks and tools to leverage a continuous cloud security certification through trustworthy evidence management methods. How can the risk assessment help to achieve this? First, I would like to underline that our tool does not have the main goal to substitute the in-house risk assessment. Every CSP is expected to perform its cybersecurity risk assessment on its own and with the tools it prefers. If a CSP finds our tool suitable for this task, they are welcome to do so. But once again, it is not obligatory to use our tool for enjoying the advantages provided by MEDINA platform. Our risk assessment tool supports the certification evaluation process in scope of MEDINA. Its main goal is to assess detected non-conformities with a selected certification schema. In other words, once a deviation from the complete satisfaction of requirements demanded by a certification schema is detected, our tool helps to decide whether this non-conformity is major or minor. Risk assessment provides its support to the certification evaluation process in two phases. The first one is the bootstrapping phase, which takes place before certification is acquired or before the continuous certification evaluation process of MEDINA starts. During this phase, a compliance manager may want to check if the cloud service has some non-conformities, and if it does, whether this non-conformity is significant, major, or insignificant, minor. In the second case, it is possible to apply for certification and start the continuous monitoring process. A static risk assessment supports a compliance manager in this task. Moreover, the compliance manager may test different configurations, aiming for the most cost-efficient solution, or compare different solutions looking for the one with lowest non-conformity gap. Although such an exercise can be executed with other means and using other decision-making processes, it is important to note that using our risk assessment tool, the compliance manager ensures that the risk computation will be the same during the continuous monitoring phase. Using different approaches for such a decision-making process may lead to different decisions due to the imperfection of decision-making process, even if very similar input results are provided. During the bootstrapping phase, the input data provided by the compliance manager through the tool's graphical user interface or ad hoc dashboard using APIs of SATRA. Thus, this phase depends on the knowledge of the compliance manager. In contrast, risk assessment support during the continuous monitoring phase is based on measured metrics collected by the assessment tools of MEDINA. These metrics provide evidence to support or reject requirements of the selected certification schema. Moreover, some assessment tools of MEDINA are also able to detect the core cloud resources. This possibility to derive automatically the main inputs for our tool allows SATRA in its turn to provide dynamic risk assessment support for certification evaluation process. Now, SATRA is able to assess risk automatically and provide the results of its assessment in short intervals, which is required for continuous certification evaluation. The result of SATRA is the same, the estimated non-conformity level, whether it's major or minor. Although the main focus of the MEDINA project is on continuous monitoring phase, in this video we consider only the static risk assessment, that is bootstrapping phase. First, because this functionality is simpler and has been implemented. Second, because it is possible to show SATRA separately from other MEDINA modules. Finally, because it is only the static risk assessment that is to be conducted through the graphical user interface and thus can be demonstrated. SATRA is implemented as a service which is integrated in the MEDINA platform and supports its main goals. The key benefit of the tool is that it is fast, simple, and does not rely on deep cybersecurity knowledge of its operator. Only good knowledge about the cloud service is required. These qualities make integration of SATRA into an automatic certification assessment during the continuous monitoring phase possible. Most of other existing risk assessment approaches strongly rely on the decisions made by an operator and thus are not suitable for taking part in such automatic process. In order to conduct risk assessment using our tool, a compliance manager is required to possess good knowledge of security requirements addressed according to the selected certification schema and the main assets of the cloud service resources. Once the SATRA tool is fully implemented, which will be at the end of the project, it will support several certification schemes such as UCS, C5, ISO 27000, and others, depending on the needs of the project. At this moment, only UCS with high level of assurance is supported. A bit details about the data required for the input. The first set of data help to set up the risk assessment framework by defining which certification schema and which assurance level are to be used. Also, the compliance manager should report the main service market type of the service, that is, whether it's SaaS, IaaS, or PaaS. The later possibility should help to focus the expected threats depending on the service market types. Nevertheless, this option is not available at the moment. All assessments are conducted for SaaS type. Second, the compliance manager is asked to provide the information about the addressed security requirements. This is done with help of a questionnaire, every question of which helps to determine whether requirements of a schema have been addressed by the service. Although most answers could be seen as yes and no, it is possible to specify which entity, the CSP itself or its hypervisor, are responsible for addressing the specified requirement. This could be used in the future during verification of the statement with automatic tools. Finally, the compliance manager should report all main cloud resources and specify sensitivity level for each of them. Sensitivity level represents the expected impact to the CSP if confidentiality, integrity, or availability of the corresponding resource is compromised. As a result, the tool reports coverage of the controls according to the selected certification schema, measured as a value between 0 and 1, the overall risk level as a value between 0 and 100, specific level for every threat, which may help to identify the most important threats for the service, computed non-conformity gap as a value and level, major or minor, depending on whether the value exceeds a threshold. The value itself is the difference between the ideal risk, computed as complete conformity with the selected certification schema, and the real risk. Now, let me show you the tool itself. After successful login and selecting the right practice, it is impossible to set up the risk assessment framework for a concrete service of specific service market type and certification schema with a certain assurance level. As it was said above, this functionality is not implemented yet, and only one setting is possible. We focus on static risk assessment. The second option is made for setting up the dynamic risk assessment. First, we see the questionnaire with questions related to the requirements of the selected certification schema, UCS in our case. There are 20 pages with questions, each dedicated to a category defined by UCS. This is a long questionnaire since the current version of the UCS contains more than 500 requirements, each dedicated to a specific security functionality. Pressing go forward or go back allow us to navigate between these 20 pages. All questions must be answered before the compliance manager is allowed to proceed further. In order to speed up the process, everything have been done and answered already. The possible answers to every questions are the same. As you see, most of them are yes, it has been implemented, no, it wasn't implemented, but there are also options like yes, but it is implemented by the hyperscaler, yes, but it is implemented by both CSP and hyperscaler. There is also the possibility to say that a specific option is not applicable. Now we can go to assets. Then all main resources should be listed at the final page. Every resource should be assigned with a predefined asset type. These asset types are used by other MEDINA tools and are based on the ontology of cloud resources defined by Fraunhofer, one of MEDINA partners. It is important to set up impact levels for confidentiality, integrity, and availability for every resource. This will help the tool to identify which security aspect is more important for the identified cloud resource. There is one special resource, client trust, in the list. Services are mostly created to be consumed by clients, and security failures impact not only the CSP itself, but also reduce trust in the service by clients. In some cases, CSP may not face any loss directly if the client is impacted only, for example, but the fact of CSP's failure to secure its service may cause clients to choose an alternative service. Note that in this service, we focus only on the obligations of the CSP to fulfill the requirements demanded by a certification schema. Any additional agreements between a client and the CSP are out of scope of our assessment. Once all assets are provided and ranked, it is enough to submit the practice, and the results of the risk assessment will be displayed. First, we see the radar chart showing that our CSP is very poor covered and in almost every of 20 categories, and should improve its security before applying for certificate. With the highest impact score for availability, we see that threats with the highest risk are those which target availability of the service, which is like non-surprising. The non-conformity gap between the overall risk and the best risk level is 9.82, and it is much bigger than the defined threshold, which is 0.1. Now the compliance manager may use the results to ask for improvements of the service. That's it. I hope you liked our tool, which I would like to remind is only the first version and will be improved in the future. I also hope that I was able to increase your interest in the MEDINA project in general. Our project consists of many frameworks and tools which will be demonstrated on our channel, but the main value of the project is its integrated platform for a continuous and evidence-based cloud security certification. Last but not least, I would like to thank the European Commission for supporting and funding our project.